Hey Journey Church, this is day 13 of our John devotional study, and we're looking at John chapter 7, verses 1 to 31. Before we jump in, I just want to let you know about an article that I read about 2 days ago, which was interesting. And this article said that there's a growing disdain towards Christianity, and especially towards the Christian church globally, but especially here in America. And this article said that last year in 2023, there were 436 acts of violence committed towards the church. And amongst these 436 included arson, included interruption of services, vandalism, hostility towards church members and on their way to church and out of church. There was some gun interruptions and things like that. And what's interesting is this is more than double the amount that was in 2022. And get this, since 2018, this is 8 times the amount. So it's fair to say that there is a growing disdain for Christianity. Hostile acts against Christians and the church have been rising. Now, this is exactly what is happening here to Jesus in chapter 7 of John. Most scholars agree that this is about 6 months of life left of Jesus. So 6 months before he goes to the cross and dies for our sin. And all these things are starting to ramp up, and all these things are starting to kind of get heated, and Jesus is starting to feel the pressure, specifically from 3 groups of people. The first being his brothers. So if you look from verses 3 to 9, his brothers start accusing him and start being hostile towards him. And basically they're saying is like, hey bro, if you're such a star, if you're so Hollywood, then make it public. Like, why don't you go out there? Why don't you become this star? Look at verse 4. No one who wants to become a public figure acts in secret. Since you are doing these things, show yourself to the world. Like make a spectacle, Jesus. Be this big dog that you are, right? So Judas, you got Joseph, you got Simeon, you got James, the brothers of Jesus. They're really attacking him. The next group of people is you got the Jews. That's verses 14 to 15. And they're basically saying, hey, who is this guy? Who is this Jesus person? He's got no education. He's got no degree. He's unskilled, unstudied. He's got no seminary background. Like this guy is a bona fide, just ordinary, mundane, just another person. Look at verse 14 and 15. Now, until halfway through the feast, did Jesus go up to the temple courts and begin to teach. The Jews, watch this, were amazed and asked, how did this man get such learning without having studied? Like who are you to tell us what to do? And then finally, the third group of people were the crowds. And the crowds, they were kind of torn. Some of them started to believe and said, no, this man is a good man. But others were like, no. His public ministry, or he comes out and tells more about himself and goes public with who his identity is. Most of the people, look at verse 20, said, you are demon possessed. The crowd answered, what are you talking about? So you have this 3 groups of people who are hostile to Jesus, but I love how this section closes in verse 30 and 31. At this, they tried to seize him, but no one laid a hand on him. The at this part is referencing verse 29, where he says, I know him because I am from him, and he has sent me. So when he says, I'm from the Father, I'm just like the Father, I am here to do the will of the Father, they were incensed. They said, no, this can't be. So they tried to grab him, but they couldn't do anything. And then verse 31, still many in the crowd put their faith in him. They said, when the Christ comes, after all, wouldn't we expect this kind of miracles? It says here, will he do more miraculous signs than this man? I mean, this is the Messiah. So there's this tearing between opinion and public opinion amongst the people. And some people are like, yes, he's Jesus. And other people are like, no, he's not Jesus. We don't want anything to do with him. So my question for us and for you today is, what do you do when people are hostile towards you? What do you do when people say mean things about you? What do you do when people look down on you? What do we do as a church when the world looks at us with disdain, when the world says, why did you buy a pizza place? When the world says, what are you guys trying to do? You're uneducated, you're unskilled, you have no reason for doing this, you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe sometimes even our own brothers. Maybe it's just the crowds. Maybe it's just the leaders. I mean, this story, I can relate so much to Jesus. But Jesus says, hey, it is the Father who has sent me to do this, and what I am doing is exactly what the Father tells me to do. That is my thought for you, that as you may face persecution, as you may face disdain, as people may commit hostile acts to you or say hostile things to you, just remember that if God is sending you, continue to press forward. Continue to do what God is asking you to do, and you will have success because God the Father will bless you in what you're doing because he has called you to do it. So be encouraged, be of good cheer. Jesus, in tomorrow's chapter, you'll see, he says, hey, I am the Messiah. If anybody thirsts, he can come to me and he will experience fulfillment. So when we do the will of God, God will fight for us. I want to encourage you with that thought. Continue marching on. Continue what God is calling to you to do because he will fight your battles for you. Let him fight alongside with you. You don't have to fight alone. God bless you today.